Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Atlantic Tales, when we'll meet a man who has worked as an ICT consultant and trainer for over 30 years and who is also an award-winning humanist celebrant. Clarke Browne is originally from Limerick City but lives in Shannon, County Clare. It was in secondary school where he began to show an interest in media. The CBS on Sexton Street in Limerick even had its own TV station where Pat got experience in a variety of roles. This in turn led to his interest in cameras and photography. Later he went on to study instrumentation and robotics in Moylish, but the college didn't have the facilities to satisfy a developing love of computers, which were quite scarce at the time. Pat went on to take a FOSS course in programming and spent 13 years with Cara, a computer business based in the city. Pat now has his own company providing IT training and consultancy services. He is also a humanist celebrant and a certified HSC solemnizer. Pat remembers his early days in Limerick.
I'm speaking to sport. So when I was in primary school, we had, I used to do cross-country running, would you believe? With my mother was very involved in the sports clubs, so I was kind of roped into doing that. So I used to do running. I used to play soccer, basketball. So I used to play basketball for the school team and for Limerick under 16s, I think at that stage it was. Due to the advantage of being tall and being able to reach the basket, which is quite an advantage when you're playing. You could just stand under the basket and take 9 or 10 shots and nobody could reach you to take the ball off you. So it wasn't that it was particularly skilled, it was just a height advantage. Yeah, I remember we used to, we won the singing competition a couple of times, myself and a group of my friends. And one of my kind of stand-up memories of primary would be they took us to Wales on a school trip, which was great fun, over to Rill. And we were there for like 2 or 3 days. We went to see the Carnarvon Castle and things like that. So that kind of always got me interested in travel as well, which later in life I got to do quite a bit of, which is good, you know. But yeah, growing up, I'm youngest of 5, so 2 brothers, 2 sisters. Lots of us involved in education. So my sister is retired now, but she was a primary school teacher. My other sister's an SNA. And the boys didn't quite follow that line of it, so my brother was in America and my other brother was in Dublin. So both of them nearing retirement age at this stage. I'm the youngest. Secondary school was literally over the wall from presentation into over the wall to CBS.
Do you remember the transition and going to big boy school, as they call it?
Yeah, it wasn't that big a deal because they were so close to each other. And back when I was going there as well, it wasn't mixed, so it was boys only. And then you kind of got into a boys only secondary school, so it wasn't that big of a jump for me. One of the funny things I remember happening when I was in primary was I got my own sister as a teacher. So she was doing her placement. So I kind of went into the class one day and I was like, Pauline, what are you doing here? She was like, I'm here for the next 6 weeks, I'm your teacher. I was like, oh, this is great. And I made her life a living hell. Because I was like, Pauline, she said, it's Miss Brown. Oh, sorry. Oh. So she was correcting me like, I'd be murdered then when I get home. You can't be calling me Pauline.
And that experience, Pat, of having your own sister teaching you?
But it was primary. It was only, we were very, very young, so it was kind of like whatever.
In secondary school, did you have any particular interests, or was it going to be the media? That grabbed you straight away? Kind of
in first and second year, when we went in, that's when you did media studies. Everybody did it. And I just really kind of took to it and I enjoyed it. Like you were doing, of course, back then it was a manual typewriter. There was no computers in it, and you type up your article for the paper. You'd cut it out, and then you'd paste it into a mock-up, and then you'd have your newspaper. And I really enjoyed that. And then JP McManus gave them a big wad of cash, so they bought a TV studio set up. So they had like mixers, the whole 9 yards. And this is going back quite a while now. We used to make content for Westward Cables way back in the day for Limerick. So they used to have an announcement channel, and periodically they'd play one of our productions on it for them. So we do documentaries, we do all sorts of stuff. And entered loads of competitions. We won the Bank Award and Video Awards a couple of years running, creative and documentary categories. So we'd go off and doing things about the sandcots in Limerick and One of the creative ones we did was Drunken Thady and the Bishop's Lady, where we dangled one of the cameramen over the bridge to get the effect of him getting thrown in the water. Health and safety wasn't such a big deal back then, you know. You wouldn't quite be able to do it now. So it's always been tipping away. So when I finished secondary school, I went to Moylish, and then I got into Cara on work placement. One of the lads who was an engineer in there was a drummer in a band. So I used to drive the van for work. So he was one weekend, he said, you know, you doing anything this weekend? And I was like, no. He said, do you want to drive down to Kilkee and bring the gear down for us? I was like, yeah. So then I became a roadie. So I was a roadie for them for ages. I used to do a little bit of bounce, a little bit of security for them too. Not very much. It was only local gigs, like, you know.
Just stood there and looked big.
Just stood there and looked big and stop people bumping the microphone over. That was pretty much my, I never had to turf anybody out as far as I remember anyway. So then I had an interest in music, I had an interest in photography. So I've been doing photography off my own bat for quite a while. And then I've always kind of had two jobs. So I've always been working in IT and then had something related to that. So I was still working away for Cara, doing training for them. They're downstairs in, which is now, is it the Bon Secours are in there now in Barrington Street, down in the basement? I think that's where their place is. It used to be us for years, and every time we'd walk past, you'd see "Welcome to Windows 98" sticker was still on the wall, even though they were long gone at that stage. But I got into event photography. I had my own company for a couple of years doing that. So I used to do the Paddy's Day parades. So I'd be up with Cherry Picker or doing shots like that, or do the Great Limerick Run. We used to always give me absolute agony because I could take 30, 40,000 photographs in a day of all the runners, and then you'd have RSI in your shoulder. So I still have that to this day, a painful shoulder. I used to do photography for Google. I used to do the Google virtual tours where you go in and you could walk through the hotel or whatever. So we used to do that back in the day of when it was much more technical than it is now. You know, now you just have a 360-degree camera, take a picture and you're done. We had to do like 3 shots this way, turn it 90 degrees, another 3 shots, another 90 degrees, and then merge it all together. So that was kind of fun.
But in secondary school, did you have a notion what you wanted to do?
I always wanted to be involved in computers and technology. And like back then, it was like Commodore 64s. That's what we used to have in the computer room. And I remember that they gave us what we were supposed to cover for the year, and I had it done in 2 weeks. So I was completely finished. My sister-in-law used to work for Atari. Remember the Atari factory used to be in Limerick?
On the Ennis Road.
On the Ennis Road, a long time ago. So my sister, who was the teacher, like it was a lot of money back then, bought me an Atari computer. So I was into computers from a very young age as well. So then when we started doing them in school, I was kind of ahead of the game. So I was kind of lapping the rest of the people as they were trying to type away, and I'd been writing code and stuff for a long time before that. So that was always kind of
so you were destined,
an age.
You were probably destined then to work in computers because you were there from the early days.
Yeah, computers or technology. My dad was he was a bus driver, but he was very tech savvy. He used to fix radios. That's how we met my mother, actually, was fixing her mother's radio. Yeah. So with valves back in the day, and he used to have all that gear above. So he was very technologically minded. Like he built his own TV back before there was RTE. So he had a tiny little screen with a big enough aerial to pick up the UK. Long before I was even born, he was doing that. So that kind of, I'm the only one who really followed that stint, that kind of technical side of things. The rest of them were all kind of musical and artistic and creative and that side of thing, but I'm kind of more technical minded as it turns out. But yeah, so it was always going to be, I always wanted to do computers, something to do with computers, something to do with technology. Unfortunately, my leaving cert didn't quite meet up to expectations, and I had hoped to go to UL, but I ended up going to Moylish. But as it turned out, that was great. So I went to Moylish and did instrumentation and robotics, which was far less technological than it sounds now. Like we were using tapes to load the codes into the machines and stuff. So it's nothing like it is these days.
But still in the very early days of computers.
Oh yeah, I mean your 10 megabytes would be considered to be a massive amount of storage. When I got my first job in Cara, for example, we used to put the hard drives in. They were multi-plate drives, and it was like a cake platter, about like say 16 inches wide, 4 metal plates, and that was a 10 megabyte hard drive, and that was like cutting edge. They were still using punch tape to do the payrolls back then, like so. It sounds like I'm exceptionally old, but that was like 1989, thereabouts we'd say. It's looking at the way things have changed. It's unbelievable how fast things have grown and got so much faster. I've always, because I've been doing the training, I've always kind of kept up with it. So it's always been being aware of what the new stuff is and keeping track of new technology. So when I was doing the course in Moilish, there were very limited tech jobs out there. So it was kind of like cutting edge as it was at the time. So learning programming and things like that. I mean, you look back at it now and it was ancient technology. We were still using a mainframe computer to punch stuff in long before there was PCs even. Now you look back at that and you go, japers, like innocent little lambs compared to what we have now. But again, I wanted to do something to do with computers and technology. So I didn't know exactly where I'd end up, but I wanted to have something to do with that. So I had a knack for the programming side of things, I had a knack for diagnostics. And I think that was down to my dad, because when you fix stuff, no matter what it is, he always told me, start from the wall and work your way back. So if it's not turning on or it won't do this or whatever, keep working up along through it to see what the problem is. And that very much stood me in good stead when it came to fixing computers. I still remember the story of driving all the way up to Donegal because they swore blind the system is dead. And I drove all the way, we checked the power, I've done this. Yeah, we have. Drove all the way up, walked into the premises, looked at the computer and went, if you turn the power on the wall, you'll find it works much better. And the thing just powered up. Said, sign here. Got back in my car and drove all the way back down, cursing them, swore blind, and no, we checked everything, we checked the power, and you go, really? So a lot of kind of funny stories about that.
That probably still happens today with some people.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So when I finished in Moilish, luckily enough, I did the first year, and I liked it, but it wasn't technical enough. So I was kind of looking around for something to do, and then I found a FOSS course, FOSS as they were, and it was programming techniques. So I applied for that, got that one. That was on in the Tate Centre in Limerick. So we used to go into the classroom every day and just type your code, learn how to do that. So that was 28 weeks. Then part of it was you had to go and get work experience. So as it turned out, I was really lucky because another guy on the course had got work experience in Cara, but then he found another work experience closer to where he was living. So he said, you call into them and say, can you take over from me? So I said, grand. And as I said, I was in there for most of my life, then 16 years thereabouts inside there, and kind of worked my way through from there. But I think my boss, Connie, he was very good, and he realised that I had a knack for this. So he kind of saw the possibility. And I went from field service engineer, tech support, to their technical trainer within a year. So I was teaching, now back then it was Novell NetWare. This is all pre-Windows, so it was DOS and how to make a color menu, and DOS was like, again, this is amazing, it's in color. It used to all be green before, now I can have yellow and red and blue.
Because you're writing the code.
Because you're writing, and you have color monitors, but prior to that they were like green screen. Everything was green screen. So, it was showing people how to do stuff like that, which now would be like child's play. But like if we wanted to install a computer for a company, you had 2 days to install it, 2 days to show them how to use it. Whereas now, you'd have 5 minutes, put it in, get out, let them figure it out for themselves. So it was kind of a nice, easy one to learn. I didn't know how to drive. I was too young to pass my driving test at that stage. So I used to have a driver. So it was Philip, had a taxi, and he'd literally pop me in the taxi, drive me out to Ahanish to work out there on some system or other. He'd park in the car park reading his newspaper, and then when I'm finished, I'd come back out and he'd drive me back to Limerick again. So one of the conditions for being made permanent for the job was I had to pass my driving test. So as soon as I turned 18, did my driving test, got it first time. Philip was out of a job then. Well, he was still doing deliveries for the company, but he wasn't driving me around as much.
So you were costing the company a fortune.
Yeah, pretty much. But again, the money was good back then for what they were charging them. So it was obviously worthwhile for us to go out there because the price of machines was very high, and there was enough profit in it that you could take 2 days to put it in or send somebody in a taxi to do it. So it was kind of fun, and I got to go to a lot of cool places. Pellegrine and the air traffic control centres, places like that, because Cara were originally part of Aer Lingus. They sold the time on Aer Lingus's mainframe at night to process payrolls. So that's what Cara started out as. I know there's a Cara magazine, it's a different crowd. So it's Cara, the computer people, as we were called. Yeah. So based in Dublin, up in Clonshaugh, had offices in Limerick and Galway and Cork. And I was in there for ages. It was great fun. They were a great bunch to work with, lovely staff. and you'd get to go into some really cool places. We used to go to GPA House and I like the industrial side of things. So that was kind of what I ended up being specialising in, is industrial computer systems. And the diagnostics thing again came back, where you go in and there's a problem. It may not specifically be the computer, but it's something related to it.
16 years then in Cara?
16 years in Cara. So then what happened was they got bought out twice. They got bought by Group Bull, which was a French company. They also had the contract for the lotto machines back then. They won the contract from Aircom. So Aircom had it initially. This is back in the days of the kind of the blue ones, the big chunky ones. Those were sturdy yokes though. One of them got thrown through a window below in Tralee, and the engineer came, picked it up, dusted the glass off, plugged it back in, and it worked perfectly. Because they didn't realise that the pay drawer was separate to the top part, so they ran off with the top bit. So we had engineers specifically for doing that, and then the company was doing well, so they got bought out. Then they got bought out again with a management buyout, and they decided they're going to close Limerick, Cork and Galway, unfortunately. So kind of redundant on a Friday, and contacted by clients over the weekend saying, I hear the company's closing down, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm probably going to set up something myself. They're like, Graham, can we have a contract with you? So it was fantastic, because I just bought an apartment in Limerick at the time, and it got paid off within a week because I got all these contracts from companies in Shannon.
But it sounds like you were probably thinking about going on your own eventually anyway.
Possibly, but it was kind of forced. And the thing was that what the client said was, we deal with you, we don't deal with them. Yeah, they're who's behind you, but it's you that's in here every day fixing our stuff. So it's all the one to us, whether we're paying you or we're paying them. So it kind of turned out great for me that I was redundant for all of 24 hours before I was back up and running again, which was great fun. So then that's what I've been doing ever since. So that was Munster Business is my IT side of things. Technical support, cyber security, mainly training. So I do an awful lot of work on-site teaching, custom courses. So you go into a company and they say, right, this is our system and this is what we want to do. Can you teach us how to do this quicker, more efficiently, and so on. So a lot of still industrial work. So I've been in Frere, Roche in Cork, and where was I today? Miri, doing some AI training for them. So I work for two different companies. I work for Optima Training, who are out near the Castletroy Park, and another company, Citrus Training, which are based in Cork. So that side of things, Pepsi and Dupuis, and that is from them. And then this side of things is from the other crowd. So it keeps me busy.
So from teaching somebody in an office someplace or a factory someplace to actually lecturing in a college.
Yeah.
How did you transition into that?
Well, it's just standing in front of people and talking. So the handy thing is, because what I'm teaching is tech, you're generally demonstrating. So you're not like doing a boring, dry lecture. You're saying, I'll now show you how you do this. This is how this works. Now you try it. Anybody having any problems? So it's more interactive, as opposed to just standing behind a lectern and just yapping for an hour. So I like that interactivity. I like problems to be thrown at me. So give me an example of what trouble you're having. Well, this is what happens for us, and this is our report. Well, let's look at that now and let's see what we can do. And it's that years and years and years of acquired knowledge where very hard to throw something that I've never seen before. So it could be aircraft flight hours, it could be spray painting planes and balancing the weight of the paint, to an explosive company calculating the cutting charge on explosives in a quarry, which they're always surprised when I go, oh, this is how you work that out. And they're like, how do you know how to do it? I said, actually, it's just numbers. It doesn't matter what it's about. I think I might have seen it on the Discovery Channel, and they're like, hang on a minute now. You opening many safes for people, So it's fun, and it's a challenge, but I love challenges. So I like to kind of be right, think on your feet, don't panic, kind of be able to deal with things if stuff goes wrong or somebody throws a question at you. So there's a lot of people out there who do training who are what we call book-based, which is we'll now turn to page 4. Whereas I walk in and I go, right, what do you want it to do for you? And I'll design the course, when generally speaking, on the spot, or customize it or tweak it. So I get an awful lot of referrals, and people want to rebook me. It actually drives the training companies nuts, because they go, they only want you, they won't take our other trainers, so we need to clone you. I was like, I wish we could do it, but no. So
But it means, of course, Pat, that you have to keep up to date with all the technology,
constantly,
all the software, hardware updates, and that's for the past 30 whatever years at this stage.
So my poor wife has to constantly put up with new stuff coming in, and If she sees one more package from Team who comes in, she's going to strangle me. But I go, look, it's for work. I have barcode scanners. I need this new touch, this, that, and so you have to kind of keep up with it. But it is constantly watching stuff, reading manuals, keeping up to the latest things, because it changes literally on a daily basis now. New stuff with AI in particular, they keep adding new features and changing things and moving it around, and new companies doing stuff. So that's something that I have to spend quite a bit of time working on.
Coming up, we'll hear more about Pat's work in the information and communications technology sector and as a photographer. He will also tell us about his busy career as a humanist celebrant. Welcome back to Atlantic Tales. Pat Clarke Browne is originally from Limerick City but now living in Shannon. He is a humanist celebrant who travels all over Ireland to officiate weddings mainly, but can conduct other ceremonies. His main job though is as an ICT consultant, trainer and lecturer. Pat's passion for computers and technology began while he was studying instrumentation and robotics in Moylish, now Touth. He established Munster Business, which specialises in IT training and consultancy. It means Pat has to keep a close eye on an ever-changing industry where companies and individuals face new challenges, particularly around security.
So one of the kind of rules we always work off in computers is nobody wants to know about disaster recovery till they've had a disaster. So it's getting people, like a lot of stuff I do is cybersecurity, and it's simple things. And unfortunately, there are a lot of cunning people out there who will do their utmost to come up with new ways to fool people, new ways to trick them, new ways to get access to their data. So when we're doing the training, we would, like, for example, one of the tricks we use is we'd go 2 or 3 days beforehand to the site, to the car park, and I'd seed it with a couple of little memory sticks. I just throw them around. If you plug that memory stick into a computer, I get sent a message. So the idea is you're not supposed to just pick up a random memory stick and plug it into your work computer, because you've bypassed all of the security. I have to go through your security desk. I don't have to get into your building. You've literally just plugged it in. So it kind of goes, and they get a little notification. You will be contacted by your IT department.
And that's a wake-up call for people.
And that's just a wake-up call. And then you go, who fell for it? And you go, oh, right. And sometimes it's like the IT department people that did it sometimes. Or like you walk into reception and turn over the keyboard, and the login name and password is written underneath, because they change who's on reception. So it's lots of stuff you've done. Like I did the hardening testing for the air traffic control centre when it was being built. Now this is before it went live, so the fact they failed on some stuff is fine. It's perfectly safe now. But walking with a box of donuts is another trick you can use. Didn't use that with them though. And you said, I've donuts here for Mary. And they go, it's always a Mary. It's Mary or Sean. Either of those always works. And they go, oh yeah, grand, they're coming up for me, so I'll just wait here. They go, fine. And then you wait for someone to open a secure door, and you just, I'll get that for you. And then you walk in with a box of donuts and nobody questions you. So there's like a box of donuts or a high-vis vest will get you anywhere. A high-vis vest carrying a ladder, no one stops you. You can, and there's guys that have done it to get into like gigs and stuff like that.
And all this invaluable and so important information, you are now passing that on to radio listeners. You started your slot on Clare FM.
I'm regularly on with Alan on the morning programme, different topics. So I get a text message saying, can you talk to us tomorrow about something that's in the current news? And I go, yeah, no problem. When I can. Sometimes, unfortunately, I'm teaching that day, but I try as much as I can to facilitate them. Sometimes I might do a pre-record if I'm not available, if it's something that we can do that with. But yeah, we have a good laugh.
But how important is it, Pat, that we're all very conscious that somebody is always trying to get our data?
Yeah, because once the people are, why would they bother doing this? Why are they doing it? Because they're sitting in a room somewhere in the world, 100 guys on phones. If they get a tenner off you, they fool you into giving them just €10. That's a month's pay. If they get 2 people a week, they're now ahead of it. So it's money. It's all money, and it's a lot of organised crime is involved in this when you scale it up. But if they can empty your bank account, if they fool you into thinking that they're AIB or Revolut or whoever, and you give them the codes, that's, jackpot for them. It's not millions, like People think they're trying to rob banks and rob big companies and that. No, small people, they just hit enough of them, and that's what gives them their living.
And we hear sometimes about that someone got caught out. We don't hear about half of them.
Oh yeah, because people are ashamed, or sometimes they don't even realise until they look and they go, why is my account empty? I always laugh when people say, oh, my Facebook account got hacked. It didn't get hacked. You would put something on your computer that gave them your details. You know, the Chinese government are not interested in photographs of your breakfast.
Yeah.
They didn't hack you. They'll hack something that's worth hacking. You did something silly like left it logged in or shared it out or did something crazy with it. But it's basic security, but it's so hard to keep up on it. Like if you've got a PC at the moment and it keeps going updates installing, that's what those updates are for, is that somebody's figured out a way to break into that system remotely. So Microsoft have to plug the hole, which is why we keep getting more and more updates for everything that we do. So definitely keep it up to date as much as you can to try and, what they say is, reduce the attack surface, which is don't give them as many things that they can get into. And that's what those updates and systems do for us, you know.
When then did you get into the photography? Because you were seriously into it.
Oh yeah. So when I was working in Canada, I was always tipping away with photography. But then when, as I said, the Stuart was a drummer in a band, and then I started doing event photography. So I'd take pictures at their gigs, and the pictures were good. And then other people say, will you take pictures for us? And I go, yeah, okay, no problem. And then I was doing like shooting stuff in Dolan's and doing big gigs and things like that. There's an advantage to being tall again. Yeah. So the basketball comes back to play. Because if you're at a gig and you're taking photographs, when I'm standing, I'm level with the stage. Whereas a lot of other photographers are shooting up the person's nose. So you get a bad angle. So I can, like in Dolan's, I can stand at the very back of Dolan's with a long lens, and I can get everybody in the band all together or shoot individual ones. So it's just being familiar with your equipment and the speed. So being able to very fast, very quickly grab an instant, whereas other people they're fiddling with settings and da-da-da. So a lot of that when you're doing photography for long enough just becomes second nature. You don't even have to look, camera, da-da. I remember I was on holidays in America and I put a camera up on the roof of the car, put my hand on it, and I just took photographs of these really big, expensive buildings as we went past. And then I was shown the photographs afterwards, and every single one of them was framed perfectly, in focus, spot on. And they were like, how did she? And I was like, I don't even need to look. I know exactly. I can flick the lens, move this, adjust the shutter speed, da-da-da-da, and I can see the picture before I take it. My wife makes fun of me about it. She says, you can remember every photograph I've ever taken. I was like, yes. I can tell you what the picture was, where I was when I took it. So I was looking there recently. All my stuff is online now. And I have 750,000 photographs, all mostly geotagged, going back ages. And I have gone through and deleted some of the older stuff. Like I had hundreds of pictures from Paddy's Day parades and Great Limerick Run and boxing and all sorts of stuff. And I kind of farmed all those off to hard drive, but I kept holiday stuff and travel stuff that I've done. I've kept those ones available, and there's thousands of them. But I can go in and literally, my wife can say, oh, do you remember that time we were in wherever? And I'll go, hang on a second. And I can, there's the photographs there, because everything is on a map. So I can zoom in on a map and it'll show me where I took the pictures. That's built into Google Photos. So it's a built-in feature, which is brilliant. But I can pull it up and send her the picture within a minute or two. So I did a lot of commercial work. And it was always when I was doing the computers at the same time, because it was all evening work. So I would do music gigs, did a lot of theatre stuff, sports. Didn't really do massive amount of sports stuff. One or two things for rugby, but not an awful lot. There's guys who do that for their living there, you know, that, so I don't want to be stepping on anybody's toes. A lot of concert work.
For over 3 decades, Pat Clarke Browne has led a busy life with his own IT business and working as a lecturer. In more recent years, he has officiated as a Certified Humanist Association of Ireland celebrant. This allows Pat perform legally binding secular humanist weddings in Ireland, and he travels the length and breadth of the country doing so.
So basically, humanism is the technical definition, it's an ethical life stance. So it's not a religion. Basically, we believe in doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because there's going to be punishment in the afterlife. And that's basically it. So it's a secular, non-religious, and as a celebrant, I do legal weddings, so I can legally marry you. So I'm a HSE registered solemnizer. And I do weddings, I do baby namings, and I do funerals. So, and we do coming of age, which isn't super popular yet, but it's kind of tipping away. So they're sort of equivalent of the religious of like a wedding is a wedding, coming of age, and age of reason is like communion, confirmation. Bit more popular in Dublin than down this side. I've done like for individuals, I've done it, but they actually do like classes of them in Dublin where they have like 20 or 30 kids, usually from non-religious schools, who want to have something, but not a religious something. So that's quite nice. But I mean, weddings would be the main thing that I do. And I cover the whole country. I started in 2017. So after I got married myself, my wife we had a humanist wedding in the museum in Limerick. And my wife said, "You'd be good at this." And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then about 6 to 8 months later, they sent out a message saying, "We're looking for new people." So there was 6 at that point. We're looking for new people to train up. And she said, "You should go for that." So I said, okay, so I applied, went up, did the interviews. So because I was a trainer, I was already had good voice, I was already good at delivery, I could project all the kind of stuff that you need to be able to do. I was organised. So I got accepted for training. Took about a year. Back then it was a lot of shadowing, so you'd go to 4 or 5 weddings and watch how it all works. You'd go to funerals, you'd go to different things and kind of observe and report back about what you saw. You had to do test delivery of a fake wedding, let's say, to the people who were testing you, and they determine whether you were suitable or not. So in 2017, I got added onto the register of solemnizers, and not another kind of register. And since then, I've done over 800 weddings. So kind of averaging about 100 weddings a year or less, depending. All the way through COVID, still busy. And I really love it. It's absolutely fun. Because you're with people on that generally the happiest day of their lives, and it's just something that I enjoy doing. There's a lot of computers in it. There's a lot of emails. There's a lot of Zoom meetings. There's a lot of organising. So associated skills come into play, which is quite handy. And January, February is quite enough. I have about 60 weddings left to do this year. So it keeps me busy enough. It's not every weekend, but it's a lot of weekends. And also now, since COVID, there's a lot more midweek weddings. So people aren't just doing Fridays and Saturdays, which would be the kind of traditional one that we would have seen. There's a lot more Mondays and Tuesdays. I really, really enjoy it. And I think that comes across to the people I'm dealing with as well, that I'm enthusiastic and I'm there for them. And having worked in kind of support, it's not about me, it's about them. So it's their day. A few people have said in the past that, I had somebody, but it was all, I am the centre of attention, I am the whatever. Whereas I'm more like, look, what can we do to calm you down? What can we do to make this the way you want it to be? And I think that's something that's kind of stood me in good stead, because I get a lot of referrals. I had one recently down in Cork where I was doing the bride and groom's wedding. I had done 2 of the best men's wedding. I had done 2 other people that were in the room's wedding. And they were like, that must be it now, there's no more of us left for you to marry. And I was like, yeah, that's grand, lads. And I was walking back to my car, and somebody's brother came over and said, have you got a card? I'm getting married next year, and we'd love you to do it. I'm like, I'll never see the back of this crowd. So that was kind of fun. So
word of mouth is
a big part of it.
But you dismissed it originally when your wife said it to you.
I was like, yeah, sure, But as always, she was right. And she said, "You're good. You're enthusiastic with this. You're a people person, and that's what you kind of have to be, because on the day, it's not just the bride and groom, because you've done your script and you've done everything beforehand. So you're kind of following the road and you've designed that with them. But on the day, things can happen and things can go wrong and things can catch fire and who knows what can happen. So again, that, stay calm, don't panic. When you get a groom going, what do I say? What do I do? What am I supposed to happen? Relax. She's going to walk in. She's going to do this. You walk them through it. So, and again, in a lot of the reviews and stuff that I've got, people said, very easy to deal with, guided us through everything on the day, kept us calm. And that's a big important thing is not to have them panicking. Because if they panic, they're going to forget their lines. If they forget their lines, we'll be there all day. So you're going to have to kind of say, right, there's 2, like for a legal wedding, there's 2 things they have to do. And about, I'd say 2 out of 10, because the groom goes first, he'll fluff his line. So I'll say, do you know of any legal impediment to your marriage to whoever, Mary? And they're supposed to say, I know of no impediment. But you can see it happening. They look at you, they take a breath, their mind goes completely blank, And I've asked them, do you know any reason you can't marry her? And they go, I do. So I go, not no. They go, what? I do not know. I do not know of any impediment to my marriage. And it's just that kind of keeping it light, which again is my attitude to most things. Keep it light, keep it breezy, and try and avoid anybody panicking. And just deal with stuff. So my wife says I'm like the MacGyver of weddings because everything they might want, I have in the car. Spare PA system, candles, ribbons, lanterns, whatever goes wrong, I go, give me 2 minutes to go to the car and I have it in the back. I do have to empty it out periodically to put stuff in, and there's like just bags and bags of things coming out of the car.
You must have serious mileage up.
Oh, I think I am 145 miles off of 200,000 on that car. So 200,000 miles.
Good going.
Which is 300 whatever. And a good old Santa Fe, you can't go wrong, loads of room in the back in it.
Coming up, we'll hear more about Pat Clarke Browne's life on the road as a humanist celebrant and why humanism is becoming more popular in Ireland.
True love is not the first flaring up of the fire, new, bright and spectacular though that is, but the careful tending that gives warmth and comfort over a long time. Marriage is a statement made by a couple to those around them of what they know, that they have found such love, friendship and support that they wish to share it for the rest of their lives.
Welcome back to Atlantic Tales. Pat Clarke Browne is an ICT consultant, trainer and lecturer based in Shannon, County Clare. He has spent over 30 years in the industry and has always had a passion for technology, photography and travelling. In 2017, Pat completed his training as a humanist celebrant and became a HSC registered legal wedding solemnizer. He won the Celebrant of the Year award just 2 years later. Secular ceremonies are becoming increasingly popular, with more and more couples opting to say I do outside of a traditional church setting. Pat has travelled all across Ireland and has conducted over 800 humanist weddings, but it's not just marital ceremonies Pat officiates.
So legally, the weddings were legal to do those, but any other kind of ceremony, like funerals and so on, there's no legal requirements for that. But yes, I would do quite a few funerals. Ireland is still very traditional. It would still be mainly churches that the funerals would go to. But it is becoming, I won't say more popular, but less unusual to go to the crematorium or to go to, because again the crematorium is here in Shannon, to not go to the church. So there's more and more of those that are happening. But it would still be, I'd say the bulk of funerals are still church funerals. Equivalent to that then as well, like I mentioned, is for confirmation communion. That would still be the majority in Ireland. But again, the alternatives are options for people. So as more and more people kind of move away from strict religious kind of content, you're finding that, with non-denominational schools and so on, there's less baptism, more baby namings. What's nice is, because I've been doing it for a while, I'm doing baby namings for the people that I married. So, you kind of get a call going, and I always say that, listen, the first baby naming is free. You have more than one kid, I'm charging you for the second one. So, it's just nice to meet up with them again and catch up and say, oh, this is the baby, and I really enjoy that.
And do people tell you, or do you even ask why they've chosen to go down the route of a humanist celebration?
Not specifically, because if they've taken the trouble to seek you out, they have a good enough reason for it. And the thing is, we are not anti-religion. It's not like we do religion bashing during the ceremony or say you should be doing this now instead of the other. There's none of that. It's purely that it isn't in it. It's not that it's against it. So I've had people say, oh, my uncle's going to be there now and he's a priest, don't have any problem. I was like, oh, of course not. And I've even had uncles who are priests come up and say, could I have a copy of the script? Because I always have couples looking for nice readings, and those were really nice. So the only thing we tell people is no hymns, nothing from the Bible. Other than that, you can have whatever you like. Some people are really involved in the designing and they make it really personal about themselves, and I love that. And other people just kind of just want to make it, get me through this as quick as you can, because they're not into being the centre of attention. But it's fun. And I've had everything from like Dr. Seuss to AC/DC lyrics to, they can pick their own music during the ceremony and stuff, and you get some really funny ones. I was just watching a video yesterday, another one of our celebrants put it into the celebrant chat. It was a wedding up in City Hall in Dublin. So the camera is set up, the bridesmaids come in, grand, music comes on, it's the theme to Jurassic Park.
Oh.
The bride comes in an inflatable Tyrannosaurus dinosaur costume and walks up the aisle in a dinosaur costume, unzips it, and then she's in her full bridal dress. So like, you wouldn't get a priest to let you do that usually, but we're kind of going, yeah, whatever you want, we can incorporate anything you like in it. I think the funniest one that I had was up near Dublin again, actually, and they wanted to play a joke on the best man. So there's a thing in the wedding called a ring warming, where the rings are passed amongst all of the guests and they warm them with their good wishes. So it kind of goes on during the ceremony. And then at some point when we're using the rings, the best man gets them and brings them up. So the setup was, best man has the ring box, passes it around, comes back to him. Seamus, have you got the rings? Seamus brings up the box, and I open the box and I go, Seamus, there's nothing in it. And his face just dropped. He's like, what? I said, when did you see them last? He says, well, the photographer had them, maybe they're outside with the photographer. And I said, oh, it's all right, Seamus, I think we're grand. And a llama walks up the aisle with the rings in a bag around his neck and comes up, and his face was just... Now, the venue had llamas, and they give this as an option, that you can have a wedding llama.
On the whole venue thing, is it all within a hall or a room, or could it be up?
It can be anywhere. So if it's a legal ceremony, there are specific requirements. So it has to be a permanent address, someone that can get a letter posted out to it. But I've done castles. So sometimes if somebody says, oh, I want to get married on the beach, we can't do the legal part there. So at a nearby hotel or restaurant or something, we do the legal part. And then we have the ceremony wherever you like. So there are some restrictions on it, but I've been in castles and forests and cliffs, and Cliffs of Moher is very popular. We do a lot of them up at Hag's Head, which is the other side, because there's less walls, less tourists. So I've had tourists walk into the middle of a wedding to take a selfie while I'm doing the ceremony, and you kind of look and go, really? And some Japanese tourist comes over and leans in next to the bride to take a picture in the middle of the ceremony. She kind of expertly placed elbow to the ribs, gets rid of them pretty quickly.
Your skills come back into play.
Yeah. Being a bouncer's handy sometimes. Haven't had to use it much at a wedding, but it's always there as a backup. But yeah, you get some amazing venues. In Clare, there's some fantastic places in Clare. I do a lot at Hotel Doolin now, one of my favourite spots. They're fantastic to work with. It's a beautiful venue. It used to be, if you remember back in the day, it was sort of a tent kind of thing they had out the back. They've now built a custom venue for weddings and events and stuff. So it's one of the few places I know I can walk into. We're always there an hour early, but I could walk in there 5 minutes before a wedding, and I know there's going to be no panic, because they're really, really good at what they do. But Spanish Point and lots of places. So Clare has a lot of good venues. Falls in Ennistimon is another great spot as well. Beautiful photographs there, if you get the weather.
Yes, of course.
The falls are better when you've had a bit of rain and then it's dry on the day.
But still a lot of travelling, you go all over the country.
Oh yeah, I did Donegal I did ones down at Loop Head, I've done ones up in Loch Esk, up in Redcastle in Donegal. I might be doing 9 hours driving in the day. So 4.5 hours up and 4.5 hours back. But the nice thing with the weddings is, with the training, I'd have to be there for 9 o'clock in the morning. The wedding could be at 2 o'clock. So I don't have a ridiculously early start usually. So it's a little bit better. So I kind of like to drive, and so I've been doing it for so long now that an hour, 2 hours is kind of nothing. It's only an hour and a half way, my wife.
You, Osney, take Macy to be your wife, to share a relationship of love, tenderness and laughter, to confide in and trust above all others, to respect and stand by her in everything as an equal partner, but above all else, to love and cherish her.
I do. The area of humanist celebration becoming more and more popular, and there is actually a humanist association or society in Ireland.
Yeah, so it's under the auspices of the Humanist Association of Ireland that we are added to the Register of Solemnisers. So the HAI, they have local groups all around the country, based out of Dublin mainly, but they do, like for example, they just had Darwin Day, which is sort of the humanist equivalent to Christmas, sort of like. So there's Charles Darwin's birthday. They have a lecture up in UCD in Dublin. So it's usually on science and genetics and something like that. So it's usually very interesting. But they organise us all, and what they really brought in there not too long ago, which was fantastic, is a central booking system. So before you'd have to email all of us separately to try and find somebody who was free on your date. Now you can literally go in, good old technology, put in the date and the county you get married in, it'll tell you, here's everybody who can marry you from within the organisation. But yeah, so they are sort of the governing body effectively. But we're all sole traders, we're all individual operators. But that's who you contact for bookings usually. A lot of it is direct to us as well. But so we make a contribution for every ceremony we carry out back to the organisation to help fund their campaigns and things that they do. So we were massively involved in the marriage equality campaign. The HEI were literally marching the streets with people to make that happen. Proportionally, quite a few. We do an awful lot of same-sex marriages because again, the church kind of frowns on them, so they're looking for somebody else to go with. So we would do quite a lot of those. But the number of associations or organisations now that aren't the Catholic Church effectively, that will do same-sex is grown as well, which is brilliant. So you like spiritualists, interfaith, all these different ones. So there's a lot of choices out there for people. So it is a more competitive market than it was when I started. But the advantage is I get a lot of referrals, a lot of venues refer me as well. So I'm still doing all right. But it's certainly something that a lot of people say, I'd always love to do that. So you get a lot of people who used to be photographers, kind of interested in becoming celebrants or things like that, which is great. The market's there for everybody.
And are there many humanist celebrants in Clare, in the area?
So there's a couple. So there's myself, Margaret Gamble, who used to be a teacher in one of the schools in Shannon. She's another one. Then you've got the only two of us in Clare. Yeah. And then you got like on the border, Clare, Galway, quite a few of us. So there is a good scattering, but there is sort of a lot of concentration around Dublin because that would be where the majority of the weddings are taking place. The last round of recruitment we had for new celebrants, we specifically looked for more of a scattering, so up to Donegal and whatever, just because I didn't mind it, but the rest of them going, we've got to go all the way up to Donegal. So we're trying to have it that there's people more local for couples who want to get married, because it cuts down on travel costs and stuff like that as well. So it's better for us to have that spread out there. So I think there's pretty much one in every county now, and several in them as well. So there's a couple in Limerick, Clare, Dublin, all around the place. A couple down in Cork. So you're going to have somebody near enough to you.
And the HAI actively recruiting because they know it's becoming more popular?
Yeah. So we had a round of recruitment this year. So they only do like about 10 people a year because there's quite a lot of work involved in training them up. And again, they have to accompany existing celebrants in that. Doesn't happen every single year. So they kind of gauge the market and see how busy people are and see is there more of a demand. Can we get people in other areas where we don't have anybody at the moment? And then they try and try to get that good spread there. So I think it's nice that they do it that way, that it isn't just we only do Dublin only. They go, well, we would like to have more people in the regions, not just for weddings, but also for funerals and the other services we offer as well. So it's nice to have that spread.